With a few clever trims to the body, these will make excellent shoe replacements. Welcome back to the Scaled Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. Today we're taking a first look, run, and review of the new Redcat Gen 9. And here it is, another international. And this is a fine-looking example of the Scout 800. A very iconic vehicle in its own right, and Redcat did a pretty great job of recreating this classic. Now, of course, it's a little probably wider than a typical Scout 800 would be, but the general dimensions are there, and it looks pretty good. It is big. There's no doubt about it. It's large and in charge. This is not Redcat's first entry into this scale RC market. Of course, the Gen 7 and Gen 8 before it, the Gen 8 being an international as well. The best way I can describe it is taking an existing platform and building on it and making it better. And that's certainly what I think they've done here with the Redcat Gen 9. Now, there are a few things that are different over the Gen 8, and I will try to go over all of the specs with you. But if you want all of that information that's featured on that box right over there, I suggest you head over to their website. I'll put a link in the description down below so you can check all of that information out at your leisure. But I'll cover the main points. And there are some very good points to be made for choosing this as your next possible truck. I'm pretty impressed. I like it a lot. I think it looks really good. But let's talk a little bit about each of those new things as we go. So, first thing, of course, this is a whole new body. This is a Scout 800, so it does have all of those boxy dimensions you would expect from an international of this era. It looks really good. They did a good job recreating it. Like I said, it is a little probably wider and maybe a touch taller than it should be, but overall it looks pretty good. I'm not a huge international fan. It's not a truck that's been on my radar, so I can't be as faithful as some other people who probably know a lot more about them, but overall it does look pretty darn good in my opinion. Nearly a full depth interior, which is fantastic, especially once you see what's underneath everything here. There are a lot of nice molded plastic pieces. The rear seat, front seats, steering wheel, shifters, dashboard. There are some door handles here, mirrors, bumpers front and rear, nice plastic cage on top of the body. There are light buckets included, so you can add LED lights, which I have already done to this one. There are nice plastic sliders along the exterior here, squeaky tires, and a nice big plastic front grille with headlight buckets up front there as well. Wipers as well, so that they've really covered the gambit in terms of scaled details on the exterior of the body. It does look very good. The interior also looks pretty fantastic as well once you get all of those stickers installed. There's a lot of stickers included in the box that are additional stickers you don't have to put on there, but I added most of them just to really kind of help make this truck look even better. The pinstriping, of course, I think it looks fantastic. That's something that you can add or not add. It does come in this nice metallic blue as well as a nice metallic silver. I think the blue looks better though, and a little more period correct for whatever reason. Underneath that body, we've got a nice set of licensed Interco SSM16s. I've never seen this tire before, but it looks pretty darn good if you ask me. The plastic beadlocks are vented, and there is a foam included as well. It's not a super soft foam, and it's actually got a fair bit of firmness built in. That feels pretty good. For a stock tire and foam, there's a lot of grip in those tires, and it feels like a nice pliable soft compound. One other thing on the dashboard, there is provisions to add LEDs to that as well. They actually have light buckets behind the gauges, so you can light those up. I haven't investigated quite yet how to get into that, but we will in future videos because I think there will be a lot more time spent with the Gen 9. The Gen 9 does come with a very healthy sticker sheet, which is right over here, and I've pilfered it already for a lot of stickers, as you can see, but they do give you all of the states, all 50 states, twice. They forgot to include Canada. That's okay, I'll allow it. Michigan is close enough. But lots of different stripe options, some big Redcat logos as well. And then all the floor mats and everything that I've already put in there. Some bumper stickers, which aren't very funny. Oh, my other car is a lowrider. That's kind of funny. I like that one. The manual is quite healthy. Lots of good information in there on how to get your everything fired up, including the ESC and everything there. So pretty darn good. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, man?
Doing good.
Happy New Year. I'm actually, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm sitting here in the workshop recording the review video. All right, let's flip it over and see what's on the underside. As you can see, a nice solid set of steel frame rails. These are C-channel rails like you would expect to see on a scale truck. Nice flat bottom skid, not anything like the original Gen 8 that had a big weird hump underneath. That really does clear it up quite nicely. There are a lot of double shear points now on the axles, so they've upgraded and changed those as well. They are still using a much more nylon-rich plastic on the axle housings, and I feel like it could be a little more pliable. There's actually a lot of this harder nylon-based plastic throughout the truck. It's more like a glass fiber plastic. For me, it's a little bit hard, and I would have liked to have seen it just a slightly more pliable plastic. I think that would have helped tremendously. But good news here, and I can't remember if this was on the Gen 8 or not, but most of the double shear points for your link mounts are separate from the actual axle, so those can come off if you wanted to, or if by chance you broke something there, there's a stronger likelihood that you could just replace a part instead of replacing the entire axle housing, and that's really great to see. Can't remember if that was a carryover from the Gen 8 or not, but good to see that regardless. Stainless steel links, also very nice to see, especially at this price point, and a full set of inner fenders, which is fantastic. Looks like same drive shafts here. I don't think anything has changed in that regard. But overall, it's a very stout truck, and I will say that it is extremely heavy. There's a lot of girth in this truck, and while I can't give you an accurate weight right here on the bench, I will say that it is very heavy, which should help with keeping it quite planted. Most of that weight does feel fairly low in the chassis too, which is really good to see. Okay, now some of the mechanical features, we'll get the body off here in a second, but I do want to mention that this does have a 2-speed transmission now, and it's a very usable 2-speed. It's a pretty different ratio, which is nice to see. All Mod 1, 32-pitch gears throughout, so nice and strong as well. We shouldn't have any trouble with anything breaking down in terms of the transmission. It's certainly quite beefy, and maybe that's where some of the weight is coming from. Okay, but let's get the body off. You'll notice, just like the Gen 8, there are no body clips that ruin the look of this beautiful body, and it's not held on with Velcro this time either. They've upgraded the way that the body attaches to the chassis. I think this is a fairly novel way of doing it. There are no body pins at all. There are these two little tiny clips, and you might be able to see them there. There's one there, and there's the other one. If you turn those forward, just like that, flip this over here, and you can just hinge the body away. Like, microphone's in the way here. This isn't going to work very well. We'll have to do a cutaway, I think, for this. But if you lift the body away, you'll notice that it's hinged on the back there, and just lifts right off. Fantastic. The light kit is not included. These are lights from MyTrickRC, including their HB2 lighting kit. I'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so now that we've got the body off, you can see that a lot of things look fairly familiar from the Gen 8. Same sort of style of braces in between the shock towers. Same style of inner fenders. Sliders are different though, and these are a lot more transitioned and smooth. And I think they're going to work really well, actually. I quite like the look of those. Here is where things get a little bit different. This is a 2-speed transmission, like I said. Still getting a 550 can motor. I believe it's still a 17 turn. Let's find out for sure. Anyway, I'll do some research there and see if I can't put a super right down below there that details what turn that motor is. I'm guessing it's still a 17 turn. That's probably fair to say. Mini servo for actuating the 2-speed and a nice solid rod there. No plastic bits. There is a servo saver on there, so that should help that micro servo if it ends up getting bound up. Hexfly ESC, this is a 2S, 3S LiPo capable ESC. It does come with a Dean's plug, so you may need to change that out if you're not running Dean's any longer. And we've got a 25 kilogram servo up front, running at 7 volts. If you upgrade to different ESC, it is capable of 42 kilograms of turning power if you were to upgrade the ESC, so there's certainly an option to do that there. They did a good job of keeping the battery tray nice and low. It does have this secondary lower hump in here, so I guess if you had a hump pack or a small battery, you could fit it in there. Not really sure why that is like that, or I guess it's to clear the transfer case, which they had to raise in order to get that flat skid. It seems like things have been revised and things have been changed. They still give you a ton of options for mounting your shocks. These are aluminum bodied shocks, and they are quite a nice smooth shock. They do have a good rebound, and it feels like they've been re-engineered a bit to give you a better, more accurate suspension ride. How's that? Sounds good. I do like the layout. It is motor up front, and it does clear everything here, so you can have a mildly deep interior, which they've proven with this Scout 800 body. There is room for rock lights in these inner fenders, so if you wanted to add rock lights, you could definitely do that. Lots of room. I feel like they could have... This is actually interesting. Maybe, instead of having the battery tray longitudinally along the chassis like this, they could have maybe put it here and then actually had it just as deep as that deeper section in the battery tray. So just an idea. Maybe something they'll offer in the future, or something that the enthusiast market will deliver in the aftermarket. This is the receiver box here, and it seems to be fairly well sealed to the elements. I don't know that it's completely waterproof, but it's probably water resistant at the very least. Lots of excellent steering. There's tons of steering in this truck. I don't know an exact number, but it's certainly a lot. And it does manage to have a pretty decent turning radius as well. The radio that's included is the R1. This is a Redcat branded radio. I'm sure it's not their own design. I'm sure it's something they picked up. 4-channel radio, 2.4 gigahertz. Easy enough to drive one-handed, but it does... it's a little plasticky on the wheel. But yeah, does the job, gets it done, and is perfect for an RTR. This is an RTR, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that already. All you need to add is your own battery for the transmitter and for the truck itself. Redcat has certainly taken a look at the market again and made some modifications to their platform in order to allow for a more enjoyable experience. And I will say that a 2-speed does come in handy. It's not necessarily my favorite thing, but I do understand the value in it. So if you like a 2-speed, this is a very usable one, and you will find that it goes a lot faster in second gear. I'm curious to see how it holds up to some of that abuse in second gear, and we'll definitely be getting this out very shortly. There's not a lot of flex in this chassis. It is fairly rigid, which is really nice to see. I like a nice solid truck, and this is definitely that. Let's crack open one of the axles and see if we've got any grease in there. I think that's always a fun project. So let's do that. Yep, I'd say there's plenty of grease in there. That is a healthy amount of grease. Wow, okay. Really good to see that. And of course, bearings throughout. So really nice to see that as well. These diff covers are metal. They're not steel or brass, but they are pot aluminum, I think. And it's nice to see another little tiny touch like that. They really did kind of go all out on this truck, and I'm happy that they did, because it looks great. It is big. It's not a small truck. It's certainly not 10th scale. but that's just a moniker for the electronics underneath, basically. This is probably closer to 7th scale, if I'm honest. I haven't done any actual measuring, but I think it's going to be pretty close to that. Maybe 8th, but probably closer to 7th. These were not big trucks. Now let's talk a little bit about pricing. That's where Redcat used to have a pretty substantial advantage, but things keep changing in this market, and prices are sometimes getting lower and sometimes getting higher. In this case, the Gen 9 is certainly more expensive than the Gen 8. But is it worth that extra money? In my opinion, yes. I think this is a much more well-refined truck than the Gen 8 was, and there are a lot of improvements that make it a much better choice over its previous generations. If you are looking for budget, then maybe a Gen 7 might be more your speed. But for a nice, quality-looking licensed body on a revised, more substantial chassis, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anything quite like the Redcat Gen 9. There is full ball bearings throughout. There are no bushings. That's not a thing here. And it is still a portal axled truck, so if portals are not your thing, certainly this isn't going to appeal to you. I think it's a pretty darn good-looking truck, though, and I think that Redcat's made a lot of significant improvements on their chassis to make this a much more desirable option for your next trail or crawler. If you want to call it a crawler, you can call it a crawler. If you want to call it a trail truck, it's a trail truck. Trail truck's the right answer. One other thing to mention. Very nicely, very well packaged. You get a ton of this really, really nice bubble wrap in every box. And this does protect the truck pretty well. Not well enough to save the mirrors. These are replacement mirrors, and you do get a substantial bag of additional plastic parts, including extra mirrors. So it's almost like they know they're gonna bust off. All right, let's get it outside.
My gospel screams exhausted, my work stuck in the ground, to plant my seeds right in the evil ground I found. So I stand fast and ready, when the wolf knocks at the door, when neither fear nor anger all will be restored. Do right, fear no man. Do right, fear no man. Said, son, keep your nose clean, but I can't help but smell the stench of others' evil rising up from hell. My heart beats like Virginia, done split myself in two. One side made for forgiveness, other pays the dues. ride and fear no man. Fear no man.
And here we are again, out in one of my more favorite areas for filming, with the new Redcat Gen 9. And I was doing some fun driving. This is a fun truck. It's extremely heavy in comparison to some other ready-to-runs in this category. But quite capable from what I was able to film. However, once I got it into second gear, you may notice there's some breakage. We're not going to be able to continue this this review, as I did break that steering arm right off the knuckle. So that's sort of where this has to end, I'm afraid. How I did that, now, it is a little cold today. It's probably, I can tell you exactly, it's 4 degrees Celsius today, so it's a bit chilly. And then we played around with it for a while in first gear and crawled and did some obstacles and went through some water traps and had some fun with it, and it was performing very well. And then I shifted into second gear, and that second gear is a pretty hefty second gear. It goes fast, much faster than I was expecting, and maybe that's how that breakage occurred. Unfortunately, it did roll because it is rather hard to control at speed. If you're looking for a usable second gear, this is definitely it. However, it might be a little too usable, or unusable rather. So unfortunately, yeah, that's going to cut this one short. It seems to me that these more nylon or fiberglass reinforced plastics that they use on the axles are tending to break a little more in cooler weather. So your mileage may vary, but I will say it's a great looking truck. I think Redcat did an excellent job making this Gen 9 look as close to a Scout 800 as possible, given its size constraints. It is rather large, closer to a 7th scale truck than it is a 10th scale, but you know, we here at the Scale Builders Guild are more interested in how they look and how they perform in the scale accuracy kind of level, as opposed to just an actual size. Plus, you know, with the 12.3 inch wheelbase, you're sort of limited in what you can do. Overall, though, it is a great looking truck. Reliability might be an issue for you, depending on where you live and how hard you want to drive in second gear. But from the limited time I had with it, it was pretty good. I will say that reliability is definitely a strike against it. I would also say weight is another issue. It is a very heavy truck. That's something that some people see as a benefit, others see it as a drawback. I think it has space in sort of both worlds, depending on your use. You know, if you want it to be a hardcore rock crawler, you're probably going to want to reduce that weight a little bit. If you're looking for a nice solid trail truck that does some limited obstacles, then this is a good one too. Portals help get you over a lot of obstacles. There's no denying that, that's for sure. And the scale good looks are a really nice bonus as well. I like all of the features. I love the hinge that they put into this. Great looking licensed tire, great looking licensed body, lots of additional plastic bits. I'd like to see a little bit more beef in the axles, obviously. And I did snap another mirror in a rollover, so watch out for that as well. Reliability issues aside, I think it's a pretty decent looking truck with a good feature set. The price is definitely higher than Redcat has usually gone for with their Gen vehicles, Gen 8s, Gen 7s. The Gen 9 is definitely the most expensive, but I think you're getting good bang for your buck if it didn't break. I think that's going to do it. Let's get back into the studio. I'm going to have to carry this back to the car. Oh, maybe not. Well, as long as we're going this direction, we're good. Well, maybe, you know what? We can do a little bit of driving. It's not going to always want to go in the direction you want it to. Darn, poor thing. Oh boy, I think that's going to do it. Back to the studio. My thanks, of course, to Redcat for sending the International Scout 800 Gen 9 to me, so I could do this review and share it with all of you. If this is something you're interested in, I'll be sure to put links down below to where you can pick one up for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.